Messieurs les co-présidents,
Co-chairs, dear colleagues, Secretary-General of the United Nations, ladies and gentlemen, I commend the leadership of France and Saudi Arabia, and I commend the commitment of all here present to the Palestinian cause. This conference is being held at a time when the world's conscience has been shaken to its very core by the indefensible situation in Gaza. That situation has gone beyond all limits. We are witnessing an indescribable tragedy bearing all the hallmarks of ethnic cleansing. In the face of such inhumanity on such scale, to say nothing, to do nothing is not an option. That choice would even be passive complicity. We are here to recall the very meaning of the founding principles of the United Nations: the sovereignty of peoples, equality of rights, peace through justice, the respect of international law, and the protection of civilians, even in times of war. These are all values that have today been annihilated and which now lie under Gaza's rubble. Senegal reaffirms its unwavering commitment to a two-state solution, with Palestine and Israel living side by side, each within safe and internationally recognized borders. That was the goal of the partition plan for Palestine decided upon by the United Nations. This is also a demand for peace and security for the peoples of the two countries. This is a call for justice and humankind. It is for this reason that Senegal supports the outcome document of our meeting prepared by the ministerial conference held last July. My country at that conference co-chaired the round table on compliance with international law. To make a difference, we must together send out a clear message. The occupation must cease. The suffering of civilians must cease. We must work towards an immediate ceasefire. Israel must stop its bombing and authorize the delivery of humanitarian aid by the United Nations. The United Nations must consider deploying a stabilization and observation mission to guarantee that Israel's illegal actions stop. In brief, the promise of two states must finally be fulfilled. In this connection, I commend the recent adoption by the UN General Assembly of a resolution for a peaceful two-state solution that was adopted by an overwhelming majority. The Senegal also commends the historic decision taken by countries that have today decided to recognize the state of Palestine. As chair of the Committee on the Exercise of the Inalienable Rights of the Palestinian People, Senegal will continue to get on board with any initiative aimed at fostering the return of a lasting peace to Palestinian lands. I appeal here to the world's conscience. Here, we're not looking to pit one side against another or to choose between them. But what we're looking to do here is to defend life, to ensure the voice of reason and law can ring out, and to preserve what makes our common humanity, that is, our capacity for empathy, justice, and solidarity. It is time to take tangible measures to create a viable Palestinian state. I thank you.
I thank the President of Senegal. I now give the floor to the Sovereign Prince of Monaco.
Dear co-chairs, President of the General Assembly, Secretary-General of the United Nations, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to thank France and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for having convened this conference and invited us to it. Since the very beginning, we have spoken out as the Principality of Monaco loud and clear to defend indissociable rights, that of Israel to live within safe and recognized borders and to enjoy security therein, and the right of the Palestinian people to have a sovereign, viable and democratic state. Today we wish to reaffirm our unwavering support to Israel's existence, and we also wish to recognize Palestine as a state under international law. That is what I'm doing here before you now. The 7th of October 2023 was in its full horror the starting point of the current chaos. It is now more urgent than ever before to move towards a tangible, balanced and sustainable solution based on mutual recognition and the respect for fundamental rights. This as soon as all hostages have been released and as soon as Hamas has been disarmed. A peace cannot remain a dim prospect on the distant horizon. It must be given its lifeblood in institutions with mutual guarantees and ensuring the effective respect for everyone's rights. The Principality of Monaco is aware of its place in the House of Nations. We continue to affirm that only a solution based on the existence of two national entities living side by side in dignity and mutual respect will pave the way towards lasting stability. Peace cannot be issued by decree. It is built through common will. Thank you.
I thank the Sovereign Prince of Monaco. I give the floor to Prince Faisal bin Al Saud.
Thank you. I give the floor to His Excellency, the President of South Africa.
Your Excellencies, would like to thank France and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for convening this very crucial conference. This is a moment of great significance, not only for the people of Palestine, not only for the people of Israel, but for all people who cherish the ideals of freedom and self-determination. Shortly after the United Nations was created, the General Assembly adopted Resolution 181, which recommended the creation of two states, Israel and Palestine. Immediately after the adoption of this resolution, only one state was created, the State of Israel, casting and ushering the Palestinians into a decades-long wilderness of statelessness, characterized by decades of occupation and now genocide. I'd like to congratulate the President of France, President Macron, for today announcing a very bold decision to support the long overdue creation and the recognition of the sovereign state of Palestine. President Macron, I stand here to congratulate you and to congratulate others who have taken this step. South Africa reiterates its firm commitment to the creation of a contiguous Palestinian state existing peacefully side by side with the State of Israel along the 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital. South Africa condemned the 7th October attacks by Hamas that resulted in the deaths of more than 1,200 people. In response to this attack, Israel has unleashed disproportionate punishment against the people of Palestine. And we say here today that the only solution to this conflict is a two-state solution. The viability of a two-state solution depends on full and universal respect for international law. All states, including the State of Israel, must comply with the collective obligations under international law. As the UN marks the 80th anniversary, we call on all member states to recognize Palestine and to act in solidarity with its people. To restore the prospects of a two-state solution, we call, firstly, for global recognition of Palestine and its sovereignty and territorial integrity. Secondly, the immediate ceasefire and an end to the genocide and the release of hostages by Hamas and prisoners by Israel. Thirdly, the full respect for international law, including the respect for UN resolutions and opinions and the decisions of the International Court of Justice. Fourthly, the removal of obstacles to the two-state solution, including a halt to illegal settlements and removal of the separation wall. Lastly, the restoration of the humanitarian aid and reconstruction of Gaza. This is a conflict that has gone on for almost as long as the United Nations has existed. And we say that as the international community, this conflict must end now, and we as the international community must act now also in unison. We must now work together to achieve a just and peaceful and lasting solution. I would like to welcome the demonstrable groundswell of support for the establishment of the much-awaited state of Palestine by 142 nations.
The speaker's microphone has been cut off.
The President of South Africa. والآن أعطي الكلمة.
I now give the floor to His Excellency President of Angola.
Your Excellency Emmanuel Macron, President of the French Republic, Your Excellency Sheikh Faisal Al Saud, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, co-chairs of this special session, Excellencies, I would like to welcome the holding of this important international conference, which confirms the commitment of the United Nations member states to the urgent search for a peaceful, just and lasting solution to one of the most complex conflicts on the planet and the oldest in the Middle East. A special mention should be made to the French Republic and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which have committed themselves very firmly and tirelessly in conducting this initiative. His Excellencies, in the context of this meeting, the New York Political Declaration on Peaceful Resolution of the Issue of Palestine and the implementation of the two-state solution, adopted on September 12 this year by the United Nations General Assembly, assumes unquestionable relevance as it demonstrated that there is an increasingly growing international consensus on the need to end the war in Gaza based on the effective implementation of the two-state solution. This conflict, which lasted for decades and has an unusual level of violence, will not be resolved, as all evidence show, by resorting to weapons, no matter how sophisticated they may be. The international community, which is increasingly aware of this fact, must use urgently all means at its disposal to convince the belligerents that the only way out of this situation is through dialogue to achieve a definitive peace based on the creation of the State of Palestine and peaceful coexistence between the two peoples. This is the position of the African Union, which also includes the principle that the East Jerusalem should be the capital of the independent and sovereign state of Palestine, and the Republic of Angola is unconditionally aligned with the African Continental Organization in this effort, in which we all are committed to the definitive resolution of this conflict. Excellencies, we are following with deep concern the alarming reports about the catastrophic humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip, where entire communities, including many children, succumb daily to hunger and survive in subhuman conditions. Africa in general, and the Republic of Angola in particular, we have a firm position of condemnation of terrorism in all its forms and manifestations, and within this principle, we condemned the action that results in the death and kidnapping of a large number of people in Israel by Hamas. Therefore, we demand their urgent and unconditional release as a step towards creating the necessary condition for dialogue. Along with our unequivocal condemnation of this act of deliberate violence perpetrated against Israel civilian by Hamas, we also repudiate the disproportionate reaction of the State of Israel with the use of fighter jets, bombers, tanks, and heavily artillery against not conventional army, but against defenseless civilian population of Palestine, journalists, medical personnel, employees of United Nations and humanitarian organization agencies under the pretext of persecuting Hamas. We also condemned the instrumentalization of humanitarian assistance as a weapon of war due to its profoundly inhuman and difficult to justify. In the face of this tragedy, it is urgent that we call for an immediate suspension of measures that obstruct and jeopardize the fundamental rights of population of Palestine, including the right to life, medical care, and food. We view with great concern these acts of war carried out selectively by Israel in several countries in the region, in total disregard for the norms of international law and principles and values of the United Nations charters, that do not produce other effect than lead to the resurgence of tensions and instability in the Middle East by destroying the prospect of resolving the conflict through dialogue and negotiations. Excellencies, the Republic of Angola, in an act of coherence and historic anticipation, formally recognize.
The speaker's microphone has been cut off.
I thank His Excellency, President of Angola, and I now give the floor to the Prime Minister of Australia.
President Macron, Your Royal Highness, Secretary-General, colleagues. In 1947, Australia was proud to be the first member of the United Nations to vote for the plan that made the modern state of Israel possible. But that plan always encompassed two states, a state of Israel and a state of Palestine, living side by side within internationally recognised borders, recognising each other's right to live in peace and security. 8 decades ago, those hopes were consumed by conflict, and that has been the grim pattern over the years. Opportunities not taken, compromises rejected, good faith betrayed, a cycle of violence that has crushed generations. We saw that in the horrific events of October